Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon again for those who were here a few minutes ago in our other event. Brahima Coulibaly, a senior fellow in global economy and development and the director of the Africa program. We know it's a busy time in Washington, and there's certainly no shortage of events. So we appreciate you joining us in this late afternoon to discuss the future of work in Africa. I think once the event went out, it was basically booked very, very quickly within like 2 days. And for a moment there, I thought maybe I was very popular. But it looks more likely it's because of the importance of the topic, and it speaks volume to how critical and central this issue is for Africa. So let me mention that this is being organized jointly between Brookings and the World Bank. Represented here by Jean-Claude, who is executive director for over 20 countries at the bank. So he has his work cut out for him. And by Albert Zepak, the chief economist for the Africa region. And the conversation is motivated around a recent report that they released entitled The Future of Work in Africa, Harnessing the Potential of Digital Technologies for All. And this was authored by Zainab Usman, Mark Dutz, and June Choi, the authors. They're all here. You'll hear from them shortly. So to put today's event in context, the advent of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which has been characterized by rapid digitization, growing utilization of new technologies, has really ushered in a new era of economic disruption and ignited a global debate, right, on the implication for labor markets or the future of work. For those who are more concerned about the implication for labor market, they argue that the current rate of adoption of labor-saving technologies will cause massive job loss. Some estimates put it at about half of the global jobs currently out there. So what that means is if this side of this room is half, the other is half, those on this side might lose their jobs, or maybe you prefer to be the other side. But one side will lose all of their jobs. So that's quite worrisome. And in addition to job losses, I think there's been concerns about the kind of income inequality that these technologies can generate in a number of ways. One is sometimes the technologies come to further help those who have high skills and who tend to be those who are already being paid well. So it tends to increase the income disparity, or that it could create a winner-take-all kind of market for new products and services that sort of widens up further the gap. But I think it's not, it's far from a foregone conclusion, and some have argued that the new technologies, this view of the new technologies and labor market is incomplete at best, and that it is incorrect on the merits for the same reasons that it was incorrect during past technological revolutions. They argue that the disruptions have been a feature of economic transformation since the first industrial revolution, and similar dire predictions of large-scale job destructions that were made in previous episodes have failed to materialize, and there's no reason to expect the fourth industrial revolution to be any different. And here at Brookings, we have been working on this issue to better understand the implications that are unique to Africa and to inform the global debate with an African's lens. Because what we've noticed is that part of the entire discussion was really mainly focused on the advanced economies, which kind of raises the question as to what are really the relevance for Africa. And in this regard, the World Bank report is very timely and very informative. I encourage you to read it. Not to steal the thunder of the authors who will present on this soon, one main takeaway is that the global future of work is likely to play out differently in Africa than in the rest of the world due to different underlying conditions, low levels of human capital, and a particularly large informal sector. In other words, given the unique feature of Africa's labor markets, it's going to play out there differently than it will in advanced economies. And you don't hear much about this unique perspective. So we are fortunate to have a diverse an excellent panel moderated by Albert to delve deeper into the issues and recommendations in the report and share their perspective on the subject. By way of disclosure, and one of the panelists is associated with MasterCard Foundation, Tricia Williams, and Brookings Independence required that I disclose that they are some of the funders of our work on youth unemployment on the continent. But it's a foundation that has a bold ambition to create 30 million jobs for young people on the continent by 2030. You'll get to hear from her as well. But so before I move on to the presentation and panel discussion, please join me to welcome to the podium the Executive Director for his brief remarks.
Thank you very much, and just want to say hello to everybody. My name is Jean-Claude. I represent 23 countries, mostly Francophone Africa, at the board of the World Bank. And I would like to really thank Albert and all the organizers of this launch of the Future of Work in Africa. I think this is a very timely document that will really help really in the continent how we will move in the in the policy and also in practice on how we try to really increase job in Africa. Most of the country I represent are low-income countries, so I would like to really take that perspective here, that angle here, and really tell you how we see things really from that point of view. Before I maybe tell you about how we approach this issue here, I would like to really say that I concur with the main message of the publication. And I think for us, we don't think that digital technology will have a negative consequence, globally in Africa. On the contrary, I think, and many studies also have shown that in Africa, digital technology will, increase job in Africa. But let me take 2 or 3 minutes to explain to you how we see things in the, from the low-income country perspective. The first thing we are seeing is that, the problem of job also in Africa and in low-income countries is not only a problem of growth, because many of the countries that I represent are having, decent level of growth. If you take West Africa, the level of growth, average level of growth there is 7% for the last 5 years. In Central Africa, they have 2 decades of decent growth, but in 2014, as you know, with the decrease in oil price, there was a recession, but now with some reform, they are coming out of the recession, and we are beginning to see some level of growth there also. So in general, when you look in Africa, if we go beyond even Francophone Africa and look at in Africa in general, excluding Nigeria, South Africa, and Angola, who are the 3 biggest economy of the region, and which represent like more than 50%, growth in other region, it's averaged the last, decade 6-7%. So decent growth. But the problem is that this growth really is not inclusive. It's not creating the level of job we want. It's not creating the level of the job we want, and that's why, the impact also on poverty reduction, it's not enough. So really the impact, the elasticity of that growth on poverty is very low. And that's where we really have a concern. And for us, we think the problem lies in the fact that growth is coming, from a particular sector, mostly extractive. sector. And that extractive sector is not really creating the level of growth that we want. And that's where the problem is. So, and also you can tell me, the country needs to use the resource of the extractive sector to maybe develop the other sector, but there we have a problem of governance and a lot of problems. But what we see is really that also that Africa in general and many low-income countries, their structure of economy have not changed for the last 50 years, almost the same, based on extractive and primary sector. So for us, we link job and economic transformation together. For us, it's almost the same issue. So to create job, we need also to embrace the agenda of economic transformation. For us, really, we see that together. And that's also why we are pushing in the bank to, this is a theme that is very dear to us at the bank, World Bank, and that's where really we are coming from. And that agenda of job and economic transformation, we have a couple of elements on this. The characteristic of low-income countries that, you have they are doing a lot of things in terms of, doing business reform, etc. But one of the main issues is lack of infrastructure, a huge gap of infrastructure. So for us, one of the first elements of that agenda is how we can really close that gap of infrastructure. In particular, in some sector like energy, also digital. We need digital infrastructure there. So this is one of the first elements we're seeing there. The access to electricity is very, very low in many African countries. In some country like Chad, I have less than 10% access to electricity. Niger, 12%. Burkina Faso, maybe 20%. So very low. So for us, this is one agenda that we need to take forward to really see how we create jobs. So this is one element that is very, very important to us. Another element is human capital. Really, study in the bank have shown that, human capital is really one of the main factors of the wealth of a nation. In developed country, it's like maybe like 65 to 70%. But in low-income country like mine, it's less than 10%. So really, we need to really focus also on the human capital. The quality of the education is very low. We need to work really on that. But also, vocational, training and building skills, entrepreneurship also. This is something that we need. So this is also something, on the agenda that is very important for us. And also, including, digital entrepreneurship and skills that we need to build. So the digital will really help us, on this agenda also. Another element, the third element that we see here also, it's really on the manufacturing. And here there is a controversy. People think maybe today with the technology, some of the industry where, we need low-skilled labor or, will not, Africa, we see in China that China in some of the, the sector like textile, when salary of people increase, it's been transferred to other region. That may not happen with technology in Africa. So there is a big debate here, but for us, we still think that manufacturing should be part of the menu. Maybe not in all the countries that we cover. There are small countries, but in some countries like Ethiopia, some of DRC, we think that manufacturing should be still part of the menu. And this is where also, agro-industry can play a part. And we think also that, the way we see job will still be very important in the agricultural sector because many of our country, 80%, 60% of people work in the agricultural sector. There is a problem there because we need to increase, productivity. But here also technology can really help in increasing productivity in the agricultural sector. So this is also part of the menu for us. And then we have the digital economy itself. This is very, very important, I think. And I will tell you, give you a couple of, example why we think this is very digital economy is very important in Africa. The first, of course, and as I mentioned, is that there are a lot of studies showing that digital will increase, will create jobs in Africa. So this is no doubt about this. We completely agree with that. But the second thing is really that the digital can increase productivity in other sectors. For me, even before, one of the characteristics of many of the countries that I represented, the informal sector is very, very important. Very, very important. And for me, with digital, I see a hope to transform and increase the productivity in the informal sector. And I can take a couple of examples. One example, everybody here is Uber. Before when I go to a country, I go to Paris, I will see people approaching me when I get out, do you need a car or do you need a taxi? These are people in the informal sector. But today with the Uber, they're increasing the productivity, at a level that is very, very important. There is also an example in the agricultural sector, like in Kenya. There is a platform where people can sell, somebody is selling bananas, but you register in the platform, and then in the platform you will get clients. So what you just need to do is to go and deliver the banana, in different clients. So it can increase really tremendously the productivity. For me, digital economy is a hope for the informal sector. I don't worry for informal sector anymore with the digital technology. But what we'll have to create is to create platform. We need to create digital payment. This is also very important. So for all the agenda of digital economies, infrastructure, of course, we need infrastructure, digital infrastructure. We need digital payment. We need digital platform. This is very important. We need also digital skill and create digital entrepreneurship. I think I don't want to be too long. I have too many things to say, but just to say, really, I'm pleased to be here. This is a very, very important, document for us. And again, thank you very much, Albert, for producing this document. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos from Brookings.